What is going on out there? Happy Friday to everybody. This is Derek Stroman back for a special edition of the Speak Your Mind show, Paramedia activity, we call it, with Travis Short and myself, Derek Stroman. Travis is nearby, really close right now, and I'm going to bring him on, and we're going to commence to talking about some current things that are going on in the world. Strange and unusual, we can call it, but I guess it's quite normal these days. And things that when I say we, Travis, myself, Bill Bean, Kev Baker, and others like us, we talk about these things all the time on our Warrior Mode show and various other shows. But here we are on the Paramedia activity show where we are going to discuss more of these strange and unusual occurrences, real-time occurrences that now it seems like people really want to talk about. When I say people, I'm talking about the people who don't really discuss these things or want to discuss these things, being our government, whoever and whomever they may be. So it's interesting that some of this information is coming out. Travis and we're going to discuss that and some other interesting topics this evening. So I'm going to bring on Travis right now. Hey, what's going on, Travis? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How about you?
Oh man, just living the dream, as they say, right? Living the dream. So
same here.
I don't know. It's been a busy week. Here it is, Friday. I feel worn out, man. Worn out. I mean, between a red carpet premiere, and thank you for all the love and support that you give.
Oh no, man! I was thrilled for you. If I could have been in there in person, I would have.
I know. And look, you've had some pretty grand events that I wasn't able to make it to. So, it's like, dang, we, being in London, Kentucky, where you are, it's like it's not that easy. We can
yeah.
And vice versa. So having the ability to do shows like this makes life so much better for us, because it's like, hey, I can't get to London, Kentucky. You can't get to Dundalk, Maryland,
nope.
with the snap of a finger, but we can do that rather quickly via, this type of internet or software or whatever you want to call it, connection to bring us all closer. So anyway, how's your week? How has your week been?
Man, just like you, absolutely crazy busy. Made it to Virginia for my son's high school graduation. He graduates tomorrow from Central High School. And so we're doing the whole graduation ceremony and then the family cookout on Sunday afternoon right before Warrior Mode. And so it's just been insane. I've had ribbon cuttings this week for multiple business openings in London and meetings and just it's just bouncing all over the place from one. Did a show with our horseman and brother Kev Baker last night. Ended up on his show for 2 hours over on the Kev Baker show on Truth Frequency Radio, talking about some of the same things we're going to talk about tonight. And so it's fun. This is different. 29 years in media come September, and I still find myself on the. Oh, thank you, sir. I still find myself on the radio in some form or fashion, doing shows with you, with the Four Horsemen on Warrior Mode.
Yeah.
Kev Baker, all kind of presentations. And we'll talk about this a little bit. I've got a presentation next week to a civic organization. They want information about the declassification of government documents concerning UFOs. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things happening and taking place all around us right now.
What is going on with this declassification of UFOs? Let's jump right into it, Travis, because this is unheard of, right? Since when does the government want to reveal information or even concede the fact that there is a such thing as extraterrestrials and ETs out there? So what's going on? What's changed in the universe so abruptly, sir?
Well, Kev and I talked about this on the show last night. We've talked about it on Warrior Mode as well. We've had these discussions. It's not unheard of. There have been, for example, the UFO crash in Roswell in 1947. There have been so many declassification processes of documents concerning that, and there have been multiple official stories as to what happened that now no one knows what happened. There's been so much misinformation and disinformation over the years just to do exactly that, to muddy the
Mm-hmm.
waters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have Clinton, when Clinton was elected president, one of the very first things that he said was that he was going to get to the bottom of the UFO crash at Roswell. He wanted to find out what happened at Roswell. He wanted to find out about Area 51. Donald Trump said something very similar when he was elected, and you've got this movement, I think, there is within the government to put information out there. And we were talking
Mm-hmm.
before the show. I think one of the problems is people focus on that. Oh, the government's going to declassify something. They're going to declassify something. Well, declassifying something simply means they're taking it from, oh, you can't see it to now you can see it. But that doesn't mean that what you see is going to be beneficial, worthwhile, or anything groundbreaking and earth shattering. Just, it could be 10,000 pages of documents, and 99% of those pages could have black boxes through them where they have detracted all of the information that is beneficial. But the documents themselves have been declassified. So they're
Right.
now available. So, we have to be very careful when we start expecting any kind of earth shattering, groundbreaking revelation. And Kevin and I talked about this at length last night in an entire 30-minute segment on his show. Um, and you and I were talking before. I think there's really four different ways you can look at this. You can expect the government to do what it has always done, which is give you just enough information to make you more confused than when the process started. You can think the government is going to be entirely forthright and they're going to open up everything they've got and they're going to explain to us that there are extraterrestrials. Yes, their UFO crash at Roswell did happen. Yes, we've had wreckage. Yes, we've been in communication with these beings for years. Those off-world military bases, space forces existed for years. We just didn't know about it. And then we're left with the ramifications of how do we process that information. And then I think the third
Mm-hmm.
aspect that you can look at is a middle of the road. The government's going to declassify documents. Yes, it's not going to be earth shattering, groundbreaking, or anything along those lines. And then I think the fourth one, and I think probably our good brother Bill Bean probably falls into this category, and is that the government will release enough information to warrant a new world order and the establishment of an antichrist type leader and figure that will bring
Yep.
the world together to deal with this issue. So I think there's four ways to really look at the upcoming, and I say upcoming because there's actually a date that has been set. This is part of a legislative action that was put out there, on Capitol Hill, that certain documents need to be declassified for the government or for the U.S. people by a certain date. So, people are pushing, I think it's either June 1st or June 11th, and I can't remember exactly what date it is.
Sure.
So I think, there's this push for that to happen. I was telling you, before we went live, it is really interesting. I'm a member of Rotary, and most people know what Rotary is. It's a civic organization, much like the Shriners and the Lions Club, and
Mm-hmm.
and the Kiwanis and things like that. We're a group of business owners, business individuals, professionals. We join together. We do community events. We do fundraisers. We volunteer in the community. We meet once a week. For the past 15 months, it's been virtual. We started getting back out there the past month, meeting in person at a restaurant for presentations. And the original guest for this coming Wednesday had to cancel. So the president-elect of Rotary called me, and she's like, there's a lot
That's
of
awesome.
talk in the media about the government declassifying documents about UFOs. She goes, I know that that's an area that you specialize in. Would you be willing to present to our Rotary luncheon on that topic? And I told her I would. And a lot of what I'm saying tonight, I'm going to say to them. I don't expect there to be any kind of earth-shattering information that's put in our hands, because quite frankly, I still don't think that we as a human race are ready for that knowledge. We're not ready
Yeah.
for that information.
Yeah. You kind of stole a little bit of my thunder as
I'm
you do.
sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, so often it happens all the time, and so let's go ahead and let's ask that question and let's talk about that question or statement rather of question and statement combined of are we ready for this kind of information and what essentially kind of effect would it have on mankind to actually accept the fact that our government is acknowledging this when we're so used to them denying things. Have they patented us? Have they trained us to understand that some things are just best left unknown, at least to us? So we understand that maybe it'll hurt us as a society to know too much. Those of us that can agree that, hey, you can't say every time that you're going to the Middle East to hunt down a dictator to actually assassinate him. You can't say that you're dealing in arms and you're helping a lower level faction by supplying them weapons, even though that's just the way of the world. I mean, you can't just say that. So, or you can, and what kind of adverse effect is that going to have? And that's the question I'm asking, and statements that I'm making.
I think the past 15 months would be a prime example of the fact, no, we can't, because if we were told extraterrestrials were real, we would run out and we would stockpile toilet paper, bleach, gasoline, and everything else that we've seen. Because there's something about human nature, it automatically puts us in a panic mode. And even though there are those of us, and I think you and I and Kev and Bill fall into that category, I think we're in kind of in some different factions of this category, but we all believe in it. We know that we know that it's real. I mean, I told I said last night on Kev's show, I honestly don't see how anyone in 2021 can be an educated human being and believe that the planet Earth is the only planet in the entire universe that has life on it. Right. That has intelligent life on it. I just and I'm not so sure that I even use the term intelligent anymore, because Kev and I got into that. I'm like, we've he and I were discussing the fact, we think that we were surprised at how illogical and irrational human beings were when this whole concept of a flat Earth theory came up again. How in the world in 2021 could we be back to a pre-Columbus type mentality of thinking that the Earth was flat, and that if you sail far enough, you're going to drop off of the planet? That just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know how we've gotten back to that. You want to talk hollow Earth? I'll talk hollow Earth theory all day long. You want to talk about there being something inside this planet? I'll go there. You want to talk about a hollow moon? I'll do that. You want to talk about the moon being an artificial satellite that was not there at one point in time and is? I'll have that conversation with you. Not a problem. Right. But don't tell me that every other astronomical body is round and ours is flat. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, not at all. But, no. I mean, and it's quite obvious now. I mean, you can do any kind of research. You can go open up any book on astrology. You can open up any book about the universe. I mean, and not to say that should validate the fact that the Earth is a sphere, but I mean, who could still be having that conversation in this era? It's just amazing.
Next Earth is going to be the center of the universe again, and everything rotates around us. It blows my mind. It really does. But I think there is, and one of the things that I said last night on Kev's show, one thing that I do like is that the news media, and yes, I'm part of mainstream media, but I'm also part of this kind of underground media movement, with you and Kev and Bill, and we're kind of, the alternative media when it comes to some things. Hey. But I am mainstream media. I'm, most people that listen know that I manage 3 radio stations. I came out of broadcast. I'm still in broadcasting, been in media for, the better part of 30 years of my 45 years on this planet. I've been in this industry.
Sure.
And but for mainstream news reporters to be talking about UFO sightings and interviewing credible eyewitnesses and talking about U.S. Air Force pilots and them having experiences, what's happening is we are able to have this conversation. And
Mhm.
the fact that I'm going to be able to have this conversation Wednesday, middle of the day at a business professionals luncheon and talk about this aspect of the existence of UFOs, or unidentified aerial phenomena, as they're now being called, UAPs.
UAPs. Hmm.
UAPs. You know, the fact that in 2021 we can have that conversation openly and people not ridicule and make fun of and scoff at us, that I think is one of the things we should be focusing on, because that is a positive advancement for individuals who have had experiences, individuals who believe in this, and individuals that have actually suffered
Yep.
ridicule and scorn and being made fun of because of what they have seen and what they have experienced. So I think the positive here is we're actually having these conversations now very, very openly.
Yeah, I agree with that. It just seems timing just seems to be interesting to me.
Well, we
You know,
talked about that because, I mean, I think one of the timing things could be, is this trying to take our attention away from something else?
yes, yes. What's going on, or is everything going on, and has been going on? I mean, the emergence of the Space Force,
Yep.
that just kind of happened. And I'm still not sure. And shame on me. I haven't done enough research myself. What is the purpose? And you may or may not be able to answer this question. What was the purpose of the emergence of the Space Force, in which is one of our armed services now, one of our
Well,
military, quote unquote,
it,
branches of military?
it is. And from a mainstream media standpoint, I can tell you that, because I deal with the U.S. Army recruiting office for their recruiting campaigns, and Space Force is now listed. If you show up to recruit for the military, you can choose Space Force as the designated branch of the military that you want to register in. Um, I think there's a lot of things I think play in it, and a part of this is theory, and then some of it is based on statements and other news stories and things like that. I think part of the establishment of Space Force was part of the ego trip that was the Donald Trump presidency. I do think that is part of it.
Mhm.
And that's not, and I'm not siding on either party, but I think the ego situation, I don't think anyone can deny that there was an ego issue there. That there
Sure. Oh
were
yeah.
there
Oh yeah.
there was a lot of grandstanding. There was a lot of presenting uh, things that he wanted to do regardless of the necessity, the efficacy, any of those things. So I do think that's part of it. I think,
I
you
agree.
know, there was no other branch of military that he could establish, but he wanted
Mhm.
to go down as a president that established a new branch of the U.S. Armed Forces, and he did that.
Mhm.
Um, I think, a lot of people don't realize that NASA is actually under the umbrella of the Department of Defense already. It is not part of the civic, or the what's the word I'm looking for? My mind just went blank. Civilian.
You're
It's
all
not. It's
right,
not. It's
man.
not. It's not
The
part of the civilian
civilian community. Yeah.
community. It's
Mhm.
not. It's not necessarily a scientific organization, but it falls under the branch of the or under the umbrella of the Department of Defense, and of course the Department of Defense oversees the U.S. military.
Right.
So it's a natural step to create something that would be a militarized extension of NASA. The next thing I think you have to look at is, for years now, there's been, in the conspiracy circles, documents supposedly that point to off-world aircraft, spacecraft that are already in space, already protecting the planet, and that there's
Yep.
already off-world military personnel.
Yep.
Uh, and if you believe that particular conspiracy, then the natural assumption is that the public declaration of a space force again is priming us for the revelation that is already there,
Yep.
or for them to claim that they are about to launch it, and then all of a sudden, what has been there for 2 decades now, we're thinking is just now being presented. So again, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's a lot of game playing and word changing, and everything that the government does is timely. They don't do anything necessarily accidentally or off the cuff. It's always well thought out and well planned. So I think you definitely have to look at that aspect as well. And then again, if you fall into that category that believes in extraterrestrial life, good and bad. If there's bad, then that also poses a threat. So if that's going to pose a threat, then we have to have something that we can we can tell our citizens, look, you're safe. We've got this taken care of. And this goes back even, I'm sure you remember, a lot of people don't, but back during Reagan's presidency, the Star Wars program, the use of different militarized satellites that would be able to take out nuclear missiles should they be launched by an enemy nation.
Yeah.
And is that already in place? Possibly. Who knows? I mean, could that really have been the impetus of a space force?
Yeah.
We don't talk about that a lot anymore.
So you look into a file. So if you're, our former egotistical, President Trump, and you see this, you have access to all this stuff, and you go into that room, that area where all this information was, and you're like, this has been discontinued. There's been a defunding, and there's no attention being paid here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fire everything back up. I'm going to invest money. I'm going to pull some, budget money from this area of resources that I have as being president, and I'm going to devote it to building this faction, this area, this side of the government up, and create it into something that I think that it should be and be called. So it seems interesting. However, myself, I think the timing for that might be on time as far as in preparation, because it's just that whole future outlook, okay. And no pun with the future, but we're living in we're living in future times.
Absolutely.
Anything can happen. And I was getting ready to go there with you on the possibility of an imminent disaster happening from outer space. A comet with the direct beeline to the planet Earth, asteroids, something that eventually is going to happen because of how time moves. And
Space Force is calling you.
Yeah, I know, you heard it again. It's like, hey, you're hitting on some things here. But do you know that there's a imminent crash course to Earth right now from a massive asteroid or comet the size of half the size of the sun? I mean, what are the chances of this?
Well, I think even mainstream scientists tell us that the potential and the possibility for that type of disaster is imminent. It's in the cards that it could very possibly happen. It's happened in the past. There's craters all over this planet. That, matter of fact, Middlesboro, Kentucky, which I drive through when I come back to Virginia, Middlesboro, Kentucky is a city entirely built inside a meteor crater that hit the Earth, millions of years ago. But it's a city built inside a crater. So I think there is definitely that possibility and that potential, and that is a sobering, frightening thought.
It is. It really is. I mean, we're laughing about it. We can chuckle about it, But how many, disaster movies? Oh, see, they're calling you now.
Now they're calling me. Hang on. Just this is my work phone. Give me just one second. I gotta take this. I'm gonna mute up.
Take the call. Take the call. So, I wanted to say what's happening out there to everybody in the chat room while Travis Short takes this very important work conversation. I see you out there. Mark James, thanks for watching the show. This is our new show. It's called Speak Your Mind, Paramedia activity, where we discuss things that you hear us talking about right now. And we go even more in depth with certain situations that might be happening to people that they might want others to know about. And we'll even go as far as trying to help them find help, because Travis and myself, although be it we might not be able to help you through cleansings or deliverances, we know people that can, and people who trust and believe in what your situation might be about, and will give you the resources and necessities to help, and not just talk about what's happening and then let you go back on your merry way into dealing with the issues that you might be having. So we're here for people. Anybody that knows me knows that I mean what I'm saying, and I will be there to help, and I'll do the best I can with all, again, the resources that I have. Travis is the same way. Although be it he's in London, Kentucky right now, that's where his feed is coming from. Our arms extend very far, Travis.
They do. And actually, my feed is coming from a bunker in the mountains of Southwest Virginia, because I crossed the state line earlier to be here. My son graduates high school from Virginia tomorrow, so I'm going to be here for that. So
that's right.
Most times my
most of the
feed will be
time,
coming
most of the
from
time.
Southeast Kentucky. Yes, they will. I
Yeah.
apologize for
No, you're good.
that.
You're good.
Took that.
It's a
take that
live
call.
show. It's a live show.
It is. Anything can happen. And I was going to say, speaking of helping people get in touch with
Yeah.
Bill, when I quit managing one radio station in May of 2019, before I took the position that I have now, and from May until July, that actually what I did was I helped Bill and Melinda schedule up the deliverances. I worked with Bill through his website and through Melinda, talking to these people, contacting them, hearing their stories, prioritizing based on the severity of the instances, and then putting them in touch with Bill and helping him either get to them physically at that time, because he was still traveling, or booking phone or Skype sessions so that he could minister to them and deliver them. So I am very, very much involved in that aspect of Bill's ministry. And I do that because I believe in what Bill does. I do that because I've seen firsthand in my own personal life when Bill did a deliverance for me. And Kevin and I talked about that on the show last night. Just that, knowing that firsthand, how that intervention on Bill's behalf actually does change the very fabric and very fiber of your psychological, emotional, and spiritual well-being. So,
and before we close the show, I do want you to, I know you're just touching on it now, and then you probably want to get back to some other content, but I think it's important to actually, tell the audience a little bit about what that experience was like, and with the information that you're willing to divulge about why you even needed to seek Bill's help. Nobody has to be ashamed, but again, I didn't want to jump right into it right now, and I know you were just expressing to the audience what I just said, and just kind of reiterating the point that I was making about what we're actually here to do. Yes, this is a live feed. Yes, this is a show, and yes, we do a lot of talking about things. But however, there can be some real awesome ultimate good that can come out of who we are and what we're able to do based on essentially who we know. And people like that are far and few in between, if you ask me. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, I mentioned that on Kev's show last night. I mentioned it on Warrior Mode a couple of weeks ago. I really didn't talk a lot about my deliverance that I had Bill do, but I will address that before we go, because I've gotten to the point. I do think it's very important because
yes, sir.
Because what happened to me happened very, very accidentally. I wasn't playing with a Ouija board. I wasn't, dabbling in black magic or the occult or anything like that. I just happened to be at a location where a lot of evil had taken place, and something attached itself, and it destroyed many aspects of my life, professionally and personally, over several years. And because I was in it, I didn't see it. I wasn't able to realize what was going on. It was almost like being in quicksand, and then you're fighting to get out of the quicksand, and the more you fight, the more you move, the more you start sinking down into it. So, I
Sure.
will I will address that before we close out. But I do want
Good.
to say, a lot of what we talk about here and what we talk about on Kev's show and what we talk about, because you and I are going to be on Kev's show next month, as a matter of fact,
Yeah,
together.
that's
That's
right.
going to be a
Yeah.
blast.
Yeah, I'm
That's going to be
excited.
fun.
Yes, yes.
I'm psyched.
It's been a while since I was on Kev's show. I'm looking forward to that too. So, and to be on there with you,
Yep,
that's just going to be, a central dream come true for me. This
it's
is
going to
what
be
we
so much
love.
fun.
We love
Oh,
to
it
do
is
this. So it's like, what, we got another show coming up, Travis. So
one
I mean,
more.
hey,
Yeah. Well,
as if we don't do enough shows,
I
right?
know. Well, that's why I ended up telling Kev after we spent 2 hours together. It was because I hadn't been on Kev's show like that in probably a year, maybe not quite as long. I think the last time he had me on, we talked Mothman.
Yeah,
Uh, but it was just so much fun, and I mean, 2 hours went by just like that. I mean,
it's
it
like
was
that
gone. It was gone, just like with Warrior Mode, just like tonight. I mean, we've been talking 32 minutes, and the only
already.
reason I know that's because I'm looking at the timer up there. It looks like it feels like we just started.
We just
Uh,
started.
but what we talk about a lot of interesting things, and we talk about a lot of things that a lot of the people that watch these shows and listen to these shows are interested in: going ghost hunting, going to Waverly Hills, going to you know um, Allegheny Prison, all in and going to the Myrtles and the Winchester House, all these hot spots of paranormal activity, and they
Mhm.
want to be the next ghost hunters. They want to be the next
Yeah,
ghost brothers. They want to be the next ghost chasers, or whatever. Uh,
yeah,
but a lot of people don't understand. There's some damage or some danger. There's some ramifications of investigating these things, especially if you don't have someone like Bill Bean or even a Tia Bell, and Tia is somebody you need to have on the show, and I'll work
yeah,
that out. Tia's
yeah.
Tia's one of
That'll
my
be great.
Tia's one of my clients, and she's just great. She's former police, former law enforcement, former police detective, but also a psychic medium, and she had a TV show on A&E for a couple of seasons, Psychic Tia, and she's actually assisted Bill on a couple of deliverances. And I represent her and help her get her brand and her name out there. So we definitely need to get her on this show. Need to get her on Warrior Mode as well.
Yeah,
But so I was just saying all of that to basically say, if you're interested in the paranormal, the supernatural, that's fine. I think it's natural for us to be. But if you're going to start investigating, you're going to go to properties, you're going to investigate locations, then you really do need to make sure that the spiritual component of your life is taken care of. Talk to a Bill Bean, talk to a Tia Bell, talk to a minister that will pray over you before you go onto the location and pray over you after you come out of the location, because a lot of energy still resides in those physical properties, and it can attach itself to you. And I'm a prime example of that, as was Kev Baker. His time at Beluskin Manor there at Loch Ness, where Aleister Crowley had opened a portal. You know, Kev's life went through hell, as did mine, from about 2000 and I would say 2006 until about 2016. About a decade of my life that was just miserable, personally, professionally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. Health was just hell, and it got better after Bill and I talked, and Bill did a deliverance over the phone for me, and everything turned around at that point. Personally, things turned around. Professionally, things turned around. Um, Living proof of the miracle of faith, and the miracle of prayer, and the miracle of God. In all honesty,
What I just because I've never gone through anything like that. So every time I hear you, Kev, and everybody who's experienced these kind of traumatic experiences in their lives, I always, being the person that I am, I always ask myself, and I always want to ask you all, is that something that you actually had to go through in order to become what you are? It's because I'm such a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. So why is it that is a reason? Why is it that some people have to go through things like that, Travis? I mean, I know that's a really broad question.
Well,
There's no
but
real answer for it, but you know what I mean.
there's not. But I think there's two ways, especially for me. There's two ways that I have to look at it, and I have to wrap my head around it because
Mhm.
prior to my experience, my life was on a totally different path, and it was on a good path. I mean, you know, I was raised in a very religious home, Christian home, attended a Christian school, got married a couple, right out of college, a couple years out of college, got married, was a successful business owner, uh, was also a pastor, Southern Baptist, ordained Southern Baptist pastor, pastored a church, did revivals, had a happily married home life. And after the experience in Point Pleasant, where I went to Lake State Mental Hospital, investigating that piece of property, something attached itself. And whatever it was drawn to the fact that my life was going so well. I think
Yep.
I think what I
Hmm.
think what its attachment to me was to destroy the trajectory that I was on, and it succeeded. Divorced,
Mm-mm.
um, left the ministry, alcohol problems, DUI, jail time. All of those things happened to me. All of those things
Wow.
happened to me, and it took going through all of that, and Bill and I worked together for 6 years before I even thought to talk to Bill
Mhm.
about a deliverance. But 6 years in, he and I were talking. I'm like, I really need to talk to you from this perspective, not as your agent, not as your publicist, not as your manager, but as somebody who's having problems and who has had problems. And I need you to intervene, and I need you to do something. And I remember clearly it was spring 2016. I was standing in the production studio of the of the radio station that I was managing in Eastern Kentucky. It was a 100,000 watt station. I
Mhm.
was in the production studio because it was the only soundproof room in the entire building, so nobody could hear what was going on. I had Bill on the phone. We were in the studio, and for close to an hour, we talked at length about what had been going on. He started performing the deliverance, and immediately I felt something lift. And then immediately, other people over the course of between 2016 and now saw the difference in my life. Now, there had been baby steps because we ourselves can make some changes. We can do things to better ourselves and to change our trajectory. But the way that my trajectory changed from literally just spiraling downward, and then I kind of plateaued, and I was status quo. Nothing majorly bad had happened, hadn't made any major screw ups, hadn't done anything. There had been no major attacks, and then all of a sudden the deliverance, and then my professional trajectory starts skyrocketing. My personal
Mhm.
trajectory starts skyrocketing. My relationship with my ex-wife and my kids is repaired. She and I are best friends. We're not, we haven't reconciled. We're not getting back
Yeah.
together, but we're best friends. Back really strong in my kids' life. My estranged relationship with my parents, that was repaired.
Yep.
My relationship with my
It's
siblings, my
just an
brother, my
awesome
sisters,
story, man.
it was
You can go ahead and
just
make me
all of that.
cry, man. But go ahead.
All no, all of
I'm definitely warming up inside because I know the tale, and just to hear you
yeah.
tell the audience. But go ahead. I didn't want to
No,
stop you. I just
no,
had to
no.
jump in
You're
because I appreciate you so much for everything that you've gone through. It's just amazing to be in your corner with you, man. That's all. But go ahead. Go ahead.
no.
I'm
Well,
starting to
it's
get
good.
choked
It's
up.
good. No, it's good to have you and Kev and Bill in my corner because there are instances, Derek, I should be dead. I mean, there are. I should be dead, either in a mangled car or on the side of the road or in a bad. I mean, the miracle is that I'm not.
Yes. Yes.
I went through all of that. I went through all of that, and looking back, I'm now able to be on shows like this.
Yeah.
And I'm not an active minister anymore. I probably never will be. I'll probably never set foot behind the pulpit again. But there's different ways to minister. And working with Bill is one of those ways for me, and helping him get people in his path that he can help, being able to promote what he does, having conversations like this, being able to talk about spirituality and awakening, and people coming to a realization of a concept of God that is bigger than any denomination or any church or any mainstream religion or anything like that. That to me is invaluable, and being able to help people and talk to people, and I do on a daily basis. Somebody will come into my path with a story. Was talking just day before yesterday. Friend of mine in Maryland, actually.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Met her when I was, because I lived in D.C. for 6 months, working on a project there, working for a client that was doing some consulting. And honestly, that's one of those ways in which I probably should be dead. That was just because I took the project not knowing the full backstory. And once I got involved, then I was in a situation I didn't want to be in. But I met this individual, and we became immediate friends, and have been friends. That was 2011, so we've been friends a decade. And was talking to her, and she had been going through something. In all honesty, it mirrored something that I had been through a few years ago. So I was able to take my story, and I was able to talk to her, and I don't like giving advice, but I was giving my perspective. Here's what here's what happened to me. Here's how I went through it. Here's how I handled it. It's not all, and I didn't always handle it right, but here's what I learned. Here's what I walked away from that situation with. And so, I told somebody, I love Jimmy Buffett. I'm a huge Buffett fan. I'm a parrot head. I like his fun stuff, but I really like his stories. I like his ballads. I like the songs that he writes that are about his life experiences. And I guess the best thing I can say is I've been through a series of storms, but I've got some good stories, and those stories have some good lessons. And if people will listen, I haven't always handled them right, but
Right.
I can tell you the lessons that I've learned, and the lessons that I've learned are universal lessons. And I'll be more than happy to tell those stories and pass those lessons on, and you can do with them what you will. But that's kind of where I am at this point in my life. I'm like, I'm kind of that old guy at the end of the street who's had a rough life, and he can tell you some things and tell you what not to do. I might not be able to tell you what to do, but I can tell you what not to do. Don't
Right.
do this. So
Yeah, it's awesome that you've had those experiences, and again, that's why I asked you that question. And you see, it was able to bring you into a phase where you could delve into a lot of your experiences, and I could hear it in your voice, the passion about some of the stuff that you experienced, and then you go over them, you recall them, and everybody does. You recall these things in your head, and I always wondered, even some of our guests on Warrior Mode or whatever show we might be on, how people are recanting some of these experiences. Again, coming from somebody like myself who hasn't been through that much trauma. My biggest amounts of trauma has come from the passing on of life. My father, who was my hero in 2013. My grandmother, my uncle, but myself, probably through the nurturing of those people who I mentioned, not so much. Not anything that I can say I've experienced these things, but somehow I became intrigued with others' situations and griefs and pains, and
well, you're
also
like me.
joys and happiness.
You're a storyteller. You're like me.
Right,
You
right.
tell stories. You tell people
Yeah.
stories through film, through documentary,
Yes, sir.
through video. You tell stories, And that's
Yeah.
what I do. I like taking other people's stories and telling them as well. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I mean, that
No,
again,
no. I said what I wanted to say.
there's a reason that you, Kev, and Bill and I work so well together and mesh so well together, and that's because
Yeah,
we are literally like four sides of a Rubik's cube. We are each of us brings something unique to warrior mode, and then what we brought to warrior mode has now started breaking off into other aspects of our lives
sure.
and other aspects of projects that we want to undertake together and things that we want to do. And this is what I love about when one of my problems is I'm a control freak.
No, I couldn't tell that, Travis. Come on, you, I run 3 radio stations that you operate in an extraordinary fashion where your whole team, crew, and everybody involved loves you and how you do it. Oh, you should be real ashamed about that. Yeah, right.
Well, but I'm not. But I don't control them. What I try to do is create a culture in which everybody they do understand they have value, and they understand that what they do is important, and they're needed and they're appreciated. But I am that person behind the scenes. You may not see it, but there's not just a plan B. There's a plan B and a plan C and a plan D and a plan E. If this doesn't work, then we're doing this. If this doesn't work, we're doing this. And that's what I do. But I also do it in my personal life. And I try to make, I've spent so many years of my life trying to make something happen the way I wanted it to happen, when I wanted it to happen, the way that I wanted it to happen. And there is such relief and satisfaction in finally getting to the point in my life where that I go, you know what? Maybe things will just happen when they're supposed to happen, the way that they're supposed to happen, when they're supposed to happen. And it takes a lot of pressure off.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I'm like, yeah.
You have to just trust the process. And excuse me, because our cliche sayings like that one, you have to. No, you don't have to, because some people choose not to. They don't want to trust the process. And
no, they don't.
You know where I was going with this. This is why it's so good when we have these conversations. People are watching, people are enjoying the show. And I think I lost Travis, but I'll get him back in just a second. I appreciate everybody who's actually in this feed. I actually want to bring in another young lady, Mercedes. Thanks for. We got Travis back. No, it's all right.
I don't know. Sorry.
It's all right, bro. Come on. This is, how we do it. How many issues do we have on the Railroad Show? Come on. We're in and out of there. And, this is a show where I want to grow it. And obviously you and I, we created something, another concept that just piggybacks on all the other things that we do. Mercedes Luke Benedict, she's actually in the feed. Tim Ladard, he's in the feed. He's somebody we're going to get on the show. They got questions, and I want to actually get into the chat room and talk a little bit about. We're going to have to scroll back a little bit to some of what Tim was talking about. Johnny Lang got in there. Johnny Lang, I'm trying to get Johnny on the show. What I really would like to do is to experience, maybe even while we're live like we are, trying to bring in some other guests, which I know we can do. And I know here it is. We're at the, what'd you say? How quickly the show?
I know we're almost
49 minute
minutes. Yep.
So
whatever you need, I'm at your disposal right now. Whatever you need to do, brother. I mean,
I appreciate your time, Travis. You understand that.
I
know you do, and we do spend a lot of time on these shows. We devote a lot of our personal time with whatever, family or anything personal that we might want to do, just sharing it with each other, looking at computer screens and such. But I wouldn't trade it or give it up for anything, and especially in a case where we're being supported. People understand. My wife understands what I'm trying to do.
Absolutely.
She might not be the biggest fan every time that I'm not spending time with them, but she understands who our husband is. And I aim to do good, and I will continue to do so. So let's get into. So Mark James had just made a statement. He said, and I'll go ahead and put it on the screen. He just said satellite defense systems. I guess this was earlier when we were
Yep.
having conversations about what's going on with Space Force. I'm going to move real quick here. I'm going to remove my ticker just so we can just focus on some of the comments here. Tim had then come in and said Space Force is actually called Solar Warden and has been active since the early 70s. So how much do you know about that? Have you ever? I've never heard of this Solar Warden.
I've not heard of it. I'll be researching it after the show tonight to see what I can find out about it. But I think there has been, I know for decades, the conversation that, well, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Steven Spielberg movie, was supposedly based on an actual event where there was an exchange of U.S. military personnel for extraterrestrial life forms. And this may tie back into that. It's been a while since I've actually researched that particular aspect. My interest in UFOs goes back years. I mean, I was a kid. And I saw something in the sky when I was probably 3, 4 years old. I remember laying in the back seat of the car, driving across a mountain in Virginia, and looking out the back window and seeing this really oddly shaped, glowing object that was, just kind of zooming across the sky, and that fascinated me. And then I started, watching shows and In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy and anything on the Bermuda Triangle and UFOs. Yeah. Then I got into, the Hollywood movie side of things, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., all of those movies fascinated me. So researching UFOs and UAPs, that's taken up probably, again, about 40 years of my life. I'm no Stan Gordon, I'm no Lon Strickler, but I've got that interest. But this is Solar Warden is something I'm going to be looking into.
Yeah, those guys are they're the best. They're fun to have on, and it's just a reservoir of knowledge and information. I mean,
we get them both. Yeah, we get both of them Sunday.
Oh, that's right.
We get both of them for 2 hours. True. We get Lon and Stan at the same time.
And that's just going to be an incredible show. Oh. In which our Warrior Mode show is just doing really good. I know you notice numbers like I do, and I'm watching the numbers grow. I mean, after a feed, we just have like a great viewership. The chat room is just off the meat rack with what they've created their own show within the show. Those guys.
I'm gonna start calling them the Peanut Gallery. That's what they. They're just constantly going. It's like, people, come on,
stop. They're going before we even start the show.
Oh, they do. A lot of those people show up for the YouTube feed about 20 minutes before we are, and we never go live at the right time. We're all, now we've been better since Kev changed the time to 7:15 as opposed to 7, so that gives us that cushion. But yeah, we were never on time. These people are there every week just waiting, and they're already talking amongst themselves, and they've got it going on.
Yeah, and it seems like already this show is picking up steam rather quickly. Looks like. Let's see here. Mark James is still watching. Want to know about the deliverance procedure also. So he's asking you, obviously, pretty self-explanatory there about it. And while you explain that, I'm going to try to bring in Mercedes. She just sent me her email, and let's see if we can get her on. Let's see if we can get her on. All right.
Okay. All right. The procedure, as far as what I guess. Is Mark still live with us?
Yes, he is still live. Okay. That was a recent comment.
Does he want to know what Bill, the process that Bill did, or does he want to know more about what I needed done?
Let's see if he's listening to your question, and if he responds to that. I don't see a response just yet.
Okay, because
Yeah,
I don't
nothing
want
yet.
to.
Yeah, right.
I don't
I
want to. I don't
understand.
want to answer it the wrong way. I want to know what it is that he wants. Is he more concerned with the procedure that Bill did,
He said
or
a little of both. There it is.
a little of both? Okay,
You can you
yeah,
see that on the screen? Okay. Yeah, he
I
said a
can.
little bit of
A little
both.
of both. So
More on the process, he says.
more in the process. The
Mhm.
process it's an extent. It's an extended version of what we do at the end of every Warrior Mode ep, episode. So Bill and I talked about where I had, where I had gone, what I had experienced, the piece of property, the negativity, the energy. And for those that don't know about Lake and State Hospital, and I can't remember if I've ever told the story on this one. I know I've talked about it on Warrior Mode. Lake and State Hospital was a mental hospital outside of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. It was basically an abandoned building that we kept seeing while we were there shooting the documentary film on Mothman. We finally chose to go to the property one day, and when we did, it was the most active, uh, haunted location I've ever been to. You could stand in a hallway and doors would open and slam by themselves. There would be footsteps. You would hear laughter. You would hear screams. You would hear moans. You would hear howls. You would see shadow people. You would experience cold spots. It was just you could go in with a fully charged cell phone and it would be dead within minutes of entering there. You could go in with walkie talkies and they would go crazy. You would have all kinds of electric interference. It was just a very, very negative kind of place. And so we went there between 2003 and 2009, probably a dozen, 15, maybe more times. And we were actually looking at doing a second documentary film on this facility because we started researching and found out that it had been an orphanage, it had been an asylum, it had been the official title on the front of the building was the Lake and State Mental Hospital for the Criminally Insane Colored Boy. That was the title that was engraved in the cement on this. So it had, there was a racial component to this.
Mhm.
A doctor that had some ties to the eugenics experiments in Germany during World War II had a tie to this place. Kids were having unsanctioned ice pick lobotomies done on them. They died. They were buried in mass unmarked graves. I mean, this place just had a tremendous amount of trauma and tragedy attached to it. And again, like I said, we were there just because it was a really cool looking building out in the middle of this field. I mean,
Right.
it was a three stories above ground with a basement. 3-story above ground, basically giant brick cube. It was covered in kudzu and ivy, and the windows were broken out, and it was just this, in the middle of nowhere really, because you leave Point Pleasant and you're on your way to the TNT area, and this facility is just kind of there, and it just kind of begged to be explored. So we did,
Yes.
and to our own demise. So while there, something very negative attached itself. I'm not going to say it was demonic, although that's the way that I lean. I don't think I was possessed, but I do think I was definitely oppressed. I think there was a lot of oppression. I mentioned early on some of the ways that it affected me. Um, when Bill and I finally started talking about it, the process that Bill went through, he kind of had me tell him what I had experienced there, what I had experienced in my personal life. And then the process started where he prayed for me. And then he had me go through several processes of praying myself,
Mhm.
envisioning my own deliverance, envisioning the light of God, the light of Christ enveloping me, expelling that darkness that had surrounded me. Going through that process, going through a mental realignment, a spiritual realignment, and a physical realignment. As Bill says a lot on the show, we operate on levels of frequency and vibration. He walked me through doing that. And again, I'm not saying that this is the way every deliverance would go, because I have heard stories, as you have, Derek, and you've witnessed deliverances that are very different than this, because there is a much stronger demonic presence and a much stronger demonic entity that is attached. But I went through that, and like I said, it was about a 45-minute, maybe an hour of going through all of these various steps with Bill. And then for me, the pressure, the cloud, the negativity, that was lifted. The resentment, the anger that I had about how my life had turned out over the past decade, that was lifted. My anger and resentment at individuals that I should not have been angry or resentful of was lifted. And I was able to finally focus on me and my kids and the relationships that were important to me. The relationship with my ex-wife, because she is the mother of my kids. The relationship with my parents, my siblings, some friends. I had to reach out and apologize to some people for the person that I had become. And so it was, the deliverance started with Bill, but it really kind of, for me, because of my situation, it rested on my shoulders, because there were some things that I had to do in order to fully be delivered from the anger, the resentment, the hatred, the bitterness, the negativity. Those things, that was incumbent upon me that I had to take care of. And I hope that answers Mark's question.
Yeah, and Mark, if you're still listening, definitely, you're free to, just give a response to what Travis just said about his experience. And every time I hear him talk about it, I don't know. One thing I'm able to do, Travis, and I think you've noticed that, is it's tough for me. You've seen on shows that we've had some really intimate guests, or guests that share a really intimate story. It's probably the way I should say that. And something happens to me. I fall into what they're feeling deeply. I think sometimes even way too deep. I think I'm there with them in their shoes, and it's like literally almost,
Well, I think you suffer the same problem that I have, which is being an empath and once some, and this is something that my daughter has, and it's something that I've had it the majority of my life. The problem is I kind of turn it off so that I'm actually more robotic, so that I don't have to deal with it, because it does drain me so much that I can't. It does, and I can't do it. So, and I think there's probably one of the things that actually teetered when I was being oppressed, and I was, still actively pastoring. I was also a chaplain for hospice, and I was a chaplain for the sheriff's department. So that you're dealing with a lot of tragedy in those capacities, and so I was absorbing a lot of people's pain and their hurt and their resentment. All of that stuff was funneling towards me. And again, that's why, like I say right now, my daughter, if I take her into a crowded environment, she starts actually having an anxiety attack. Not because she's agoraphobic, because she's not. She loves being out and around people. It's because she starts picking up drawing all of that energy. Yep, and she just can't do it.
Yeah, it's tough, and we'll probably have to pick that up in another conversation, because that's right up my alley with the energy. I talk about it all the time, and I think I need to bring Leah on the show. Time. Yeah, that would be great. That would be great, because I've never met her. We talk about it all the time. You talk about it all the time. Well,
because we have daughters that share the same name.
Share the same name, Leah, which is a very beautiful name, and spelled the same way too, which is always cool when there's so many ways to spell Derek, and for some reason I'm always just a little bit cooler with the guy when his name is spelled just like mine. You know, it's like
Exactly.
if it could be Derek, but if it's spelled all weird and all that, which we consider weird, if it's not spelled the way you're spelled, like go figure, right? But but you know what I'm saying. It's it's the small things, it's little
It is.
things like that that actually are prevalent in people's lives, whether you want to admit it or not. And the good thing about myself and people like yourself, at least now, and this will kind of segue into what Mark James had to say, but is you don't have a problem acknowledging the truth and just stop being in denial, or to not be in denial about something. You might as well just admit it. If you're a certain way, it's devastating and destructive if you just don't admit it. Even if you might not necessarily always have to admit it out loud, but if you admit it to yourself, and go ahead. I'd love to hear you
No,
elaborate on that.
I was going to say I think we do have to to do it out loud.
Out
We have
loud.
to.
Thank you.
We do have to,
Yes.
but we have to. But there's a timing, and
Yeah.
you can't always say it out loud to everyone.
Sure.
Certain, and I made this mistake about in 2010. I elaborated on my past and all the things to someone, and just laid everything. And they were fine with it for a while, and then they started using it against me. They started hanging it over my head. They used it as leverage. They used it as blackmail. They
Mm-hmm.
used it as all these things. And so we do, and that's why right now I'm to the point. All of my mistakes, all of the bad happened between 2008, 2010. There was a little incident in 2015. That was kind of this, that was the impetus to actually have me reach out to Bill. But after that, and after the deliverance, I really got to the point where I'm like, I need to tell people my story because they need to understand that change can happen, and it can happen for the positive. And I'll tell you, the job that I have right now, I am very
Yes.
blessed. I'm very grateful for, but everything that had happened to me and that impacted me from a spiritual standpoint also was very public knowledge. The DUIs were public. The
Yeah.
arrests were public. All of those things were very public. So I went through a strenuous interview process.
Mm-hmm.
Answer, and then when it came time for them to make the offer, I got called back in just to address some of these issues, and I had to be very, very open and
Mm-hmm.
honest and blatant about my past and the things that I had done, and I did, and to the credit of the individual, I mean, it was painful and it was embarrassing, and I didn't like doing it,
Yeah.
and I left that interview, and I called, and I wasn't involved with anyone, wasn't seeing anyone at the time. So, the one person I could call was my ex-wife, who I was friends with and I'm still friends with. And I'm like, I don't think I have the job. I said, I don't think they're
You
going
didn't
to
think they
hire
were
me.
going to call you back? Yeah.
And because the interviewer, when I was talking to, well, the interviewers, there were two, uh, when I was talking to them, they're like, well, you'll hear from us in 24 hours. I'm like, okay. So I had a 3-hour drive back from where I had driven to for this
For the interview?
yeah,
Gee.
I drove 3 hours for the interview face to face. They wanted a face to face interview. So I was there. I mean, I'd already done 2 face to face interviews. It got to this point where that they had done the background check. These things had come up, and I had been very, very upfront about them to begin with, but they wanted
Mm-hmm.
me to address them.
More.
So I drove 3 hours, did about a 30, 45-minute Q&A, and then was driving back. And in my head, I'm replaying everything, 24 hours. So I'd called my ex-wife, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think I have the job. So I'm going to start looking for something else. I was about 40 minutes in the drive. My cell phone rang, and it was the job offer. And they're like, You addressed everything. You will never have to answer those questions again. No one outside of the three of us will ever know that these were the issues that we talked about. You handled it like a champ. Congratulations. Start the job Monday. This was on a Thursday.
Wow.
So again, I went through all of those
It's an
things.
awesome story, man.
It was. I mean, it was the perfect. Everything came full circle. Everything, my I have a personal life with my kids. I have a personal life with my ex-wife. No, we're not married. No, we're not rekindling. No, we're not reconciling. But we're friends. We talk.
Yeah.
We do things. We do things together with the kids. There's a reconciliation in that way that we
Yeah.
are that we're best friends again. I've reconciled with my parents. My professional life couldn't be better. I'm back where I was pre 2007 as far as moving forward. And so, and this show has gone in a totally different direction, but I don't know why that is, but it has. And
as often our shows do, it happens
that's
on
true.
Warrior Mode. But again, we're meant to do what we're doing. We're meant to have these conversations. I mean, you have a gentleman like Mark who's probably still watching the feed, and he's hanging on every word, and he's intrigued by your story and what has happened in your life. And when you have people who are living their own lives that take interest in someone else's life that could essentially, or who knows, maybe help them in their own life situation, then it's for a purpose.
It is.
Yes, we can talk paranormal all night. Well, guess what? Some of these,
Yep.
I can tell.
Yep.
I can all when you're about to do it because we do it all the time. It's just and I want you to carry on. I don't know if you can. I know you can, but I don't know if you have works. It's more of a statement here. He says about your story. He says, "Wow, very cool. Yes, seems like the process helped you bring out your inner strength you forgot about, and it's exactly
Absolutely.
what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
You didn't even you hadn't even read the statement, and
No,
it's what you're saying.
you guys are on my Android, so I'm like having to, I'm like doing the old man thing. I'm trying to read what's there. No, I mean, it's so, and I've had this conversation with my parents and my ex-wife. What I went through, the person that I was between 2007 and 2015, I don't even recognize who that person was. I mean, I do not recognize physically, emotionally, professionally. I don't recognize them. It wasn't me.
Mhm.
The things that I did, the things that I said, the places that I went, none of that was me. It was like it was someone else, but it was me. And so I look back, and even my parents will tell me that there were times that they saw me and I didn't walk the same. I didn't carry myself the same. I didn't talk this. It was almost like I was someone else. And again, I don't think for a second that I was possessed, but I do think that I was being manipulated. I was being controlled. I was being um, pushed in directions. And I believe that, as Mark said, my inner strength I gave up on, and I didn't use that inner strength. I didn't use that inner compass that we have, that inner faith, faith, strength, and courage. I didn't use those three things that we talk
Warrior
about on
mode.
Sunday. Warrior mode. I didn't use that.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that I could, and I didn't think that I could ever be what I had once been, and I didn't think that I could ever be what I am now. I never, I would, if you had talked to me in 2014, 2015, I would never have seen myself as the general manager for 3 radio stations in one of the largest growing counties and cities in South Central Kentucky, working for one of the most respected small market broadcast companies in the nation. I would never have told you that, I would have thought that my stations would have been nominated for Station of the Year out of the state. I never would have told you that I could have hired somebody that would be Rookie of the Year out of the state and also named top 30 under 30 radio professionals to keep your eye on in the entire nation. I never would have told you that we
Wow.
would have had that recognition or that type of success or that type of professional um, establishment again. But those are the things that have happened post
Hmm.
deliverance with Bill Bean. That reconnecting with faith, strength, courage, warrior mode, being connected to that again,
Yep.
rediscovering my inner strength, as Mark was talking about. Those things have done more for me personally and professionally than anything else.
Yeah, and remarkably so. It's visible. It's exterior, which is something still visible. Just another
Yep.
word for it, because you can see it. You can see the ray, the shine, the glow. Um, and again, we'll get into that a little bit more next show, because that's my department, because the heat signatures and energy signatures I pick up on so heavy. But again, just let's talk about Bill a little bit, because what
Yep.
you said was after the deliverance, um, with Bill, is when these things started happening. So um, I think the connection that I have with Bill also helps me stay, sort of speak, so, excuse me, so to speak, in line, in walking that path of faith, strength, and courage, the
Yes.
same way that you're talking about, naturally, to help avoid turmoil or disaster happening, when naturally a lot of people don't understand that they have to coexist. I could call it the yin and the yang. You can call it good versus bad, or
Yep.
or evil versus good as well. Um, but you can't have one without the other. But there can be a balance. There can be a balance of what you want for yourself, more based on how you walk in what we talk about: faith, strength, and courage. You have to walk in that path in order to reap the benefits. Or if
Well,
not, then you.
I think it also goes back to, that old adage, or saying, everything in moderation. Everything has
Hmm.
to be, there has to be a balance. There has to
Hmm.
be equilibrium. Um, you can't work all the time, and if you do, you're going to end up dead at an early age, because you have to have a balance of rest. And rest is physical, it's mental, it's spirit. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that we have to balance those things. And we as a society and as a culture, we don't really focus on
Hmm.
moderation. Everything is to the
No.
extreme. Everything
Consumption. I
is
want more,
consumption,
more,
more,
more.
more, 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 more. And
Yep.
so I think, relearning, you know, it was funny when I was a pastor. The Southern Baptist denomination was seeing huge burnout and failure among pastors,
Right.
right? But I was,
Yeah.
I mean,
They say
but I'll raise
perfect
my hand.
example of one.
Yeah, perfect example. But they were seeing burnout, and they actually started implementing something, and I did it for a while, and it was beneficial, and that was distance daily, withdraw weekly, abandon annually. Those were the three steps that they tried really hard to get new pastors to do. So
I'm gonna have to
this,
write that down next time. That's some.
yeah,
Those are some
I'll
good.
send it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Send it
it,
to me. Send that to me, because that's
distance.
I've never heard that before.
It's good advice, and I still try to do it. Distance daily is where that you at least once a day, even if it's just for an hour, you do something that is not ministry related, not pastoral. You watch a movie, you read a book, you take a walk, you just do something where you're not doing your regular job. Just even if it's just for, like I said, an hour. So you distance daily, one time a day, you distance yourself from what you're doing. Withdraw weekly was where that you would actually take an entire day as almost a Sabbath. You would, if you are, pastoring and you're doing Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday nights, and you are uh, ministering through the week as a chaplain and doing all that, but you had to find one day a week that you take just for you and your family,
Sure.
and you don't do anything that is church related. And then abandoned annually was where that you actually took a vacation, whether it was for the smaller to mid-sized congregations, it was a week or a 2 week vacation where that you just left. But for the larger mega churches that existed, that had, you know, a senior pastor and an associate pastor and a junior pastor and those types of things, they stressed that the senior pastor should be able to take a 1 year sabbatical, salary paid, but didn't
Nice.
have to do anything that was
Wow.
work related. So they implemented that, and it did help in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. It really did. But that formula still rings true: distance daily, withdraw weekly, abandon annually.
It seems like it would apply to anybody. I mean,
It
that
does.
was, yeah. I mean, that's why when you said it, um, it kind of resonated. It just felt like something good, something that we all could use. And
Absolutely.
this was being taught to you as a man of God, being a pastor. But it just seemed, let me finish my statement. It just seems like something that would work for any and all. You
It
know.
does. I mean, think about, I've implemented it at my radio stations.
Mhm.
I every day we take a little bit of time where we don't sell, we're not on air. We do team building stuff, or we all just do our own thing. I try to take them golfing once a month. We all golf. We all suck at it, but we golf. But we all try. I try to take them golfing once a month, and then everybody has their vacation that they get to take. So we stress that you need to get away. You need to take some time. You need downtime. You need to recuperate. And it's not just the mental. In broadcasting, this right here, your voice, it's a muscle. Your throat is a muscle. It has to rest. You have to give it
Yeah.
time off. If you don't, it wears out.
Yeah. I tell you, I did radio for a little over a year at WCBM here. Um, and it was an amazing experience
Hmm.
being in that fully and totally decked out radio broadcasting studio. You walk in and everywhere is a studio. Every room is
Yep.
sectioned. There's big boards. You had your little section for your your news guy, your update, your weather reports. They had their own section, and then you had the mid console with all the microphones that hang, and that was an experience. I tell you, like no other for me, and it helped me format. Just how to convey what I want to say to an audience. Like you and
Yes.
I talk all the time about, well, I mentioned to you in a recent conversation about how I don't feel as though personally I have that broad of a vocabulary such as yourself and Kev and Bill and other people. But somehow in that same conversation I was telling you, I found a way to connect to an
Hmm.
audience just using the words that I know
Right.
and how I'm delivering the words. And then I like to learn more. I hear things that or hear words that I'm curious to understand the true definition. I'll look it up or whatever. But I noticed that I had a knack to just speak to people and relate to people, and they related to me. So I think that
And
was very important.
that's the key, because anybody can talk with a vocabulary, but being able to connect with people, that's where the real impact comes in. And you know you don't have to, I mean, honestly, Bill is probably one of the most well-read
He
individuals
is
that I
good.
know. That man reads. I mean, I used to read
All the
all the time,
books
and
that he's read.
I, I would read multiple books at the same time. I would be
Mhm.
reading, and then I started representing authors, and it became work. And it's no fun to read
When his work
when
relates,
it's
it's like
work.
work.
It's like,
Oh,
so I'm reading a book, and
uh,
I'm writing synopses, and I'm doing press releases about the book, and I'm also editing and sending it back to the publisher, and it became work, and it just it was no fun anymore. But Bill reads multiple books, multiple magazines. I mean, and the man is so well versed. And Kevin and I talked about this yesterday. Bill will start talking, and it's not just the religious and the biblical stuff that Bill knows. It's the cultural, it's the
Yes.
social, it's the news, it's the political, it's all of those things. He is plugged into everything that's going on
Yeah.
around the globe. And he has to be. He needs to know those things. And it's like, Solar Warden, I was not aware of it. I guarantee you, if we ask Bill about it Sunday night, I guarantee you Bill Bean will have heard of it.
And we're going to ask that question to Bill, and we're also going to get Tim Ledard. Tim Ledard, just a little bit about him. Him and I work together. He's a very intelligent individual, good guy. He's part of the Star City Motion Pictures production company that I work for. He's also an actor, but he's just a guy that wears a lot of hats as well. And you know how it is being that diverse kind of individual. And it's just some of the stuff that he knows. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's very interested in this show. And had I had given him a little bit more time, he might have actually been a guest on the show tonight, in which he will still eventually come on. Hopefully next week's show we can get him on.
Well, real quickly, let me address. I will not be available for next week's show. Okay. We have next Friday. I am doing two 2-hour remotes for the local high school. So from 5 until 9, I am off the grid next Friday.
Yes, sir.
So I apologize for that. I know I'm gonna miss you guys. I apologize in advance for that.
Yeah, no problem. But you'll be back. You'll be back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, the following week, I will also be tied up because we have a live concert that we're doing. So it will be June 11th would be the next Friday. And I apologize in advance because I told you early on, Fridays are the best night of the week for me. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I got hit with these things. So I'm tied up the next 2 Fridays.
And look, just to reiterate, and even to remind you too, Travis, that this show can appear at any time. We don't have to do it at this set time. We don't have to do it on Fridays. It's just whenever we're available. You and I both are really busy. We live busy lives. So I understand that anything can pop up at any given moment, and look what happened. It just does. And again, to be honest with you, it's going to continue to happen. It's the energy that's been. People want more Travis Short around them. It's the way it is. The things we're doing. Yeah, believe it or not, I know we got an internet. I know we got cell phones and everything, but it's simple word of mouth that still travels the quickest in some cases. People want a dose or a taste of what we're able to bring to the table. They want you around to talk about this, to represent them or their organization or their association. They want you around to speak it as elaborate and elegant as you can do, and just be the face. And to be honest with you, and I know you agree with me, but it's just what we're here to do.
It is absolutely.
It's one of the things that's important for us to do. I love to do it. I'm a coach. I'm a confidant. People call me. I've reached the age where I've watched young people who were kids. I mean, 5 and 6 years old. Now they're 20, 21, 22. They have their own kids. They went to college, and some of them are even no longer with us because of the lifestyles that they chose. So, I like to be a part of their lives, and if I have an opportunity to help someone just by like you said, showing up, giving a speech, whatever it takes, man, whatever it takes.
Just being part. I mean, and you're right. I mean, and again, that goes back to my community involvement now. I mean, unofficially, I even had someone, mention to me running for mayor of the city, and I'm like, no, it's not going to happen.
I can see you as mayor.
I'm like, no,
Mayor Travis Short. You got a mayor-like name, Mayor Travis Short.
It's like, no. I mean, I'm fine talking. I mean, because you start talking about some of the stuff we're talking about in
Oh
a
yeah,
public
they're gonna be
setting,
like,
and it's
"Oh my
like,
goodness, what is it?"
no, 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 no.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, not today.
No, 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 no.
No, I agree with you. And same thing here. And it's funny that you say that. And I'll tell you this, and then we'll like kind of segue into something I want to talk about before we get off here. But what you just said is the same thing with me. I've got a buddy, and I'll mention his name. It's a good friend of mine, Scott Collier. He's ran for Congress. He's ran for a delegate, I believe, state delegate here where we live, and he's asked me to be his running mate a couple times because of my connection to the community and how he perceives me as being that guy that could be what you're saying and do that, and I have to turn him down. I mean, I cannot do that. What we talk about, you and I, some of the directions that we can easily shift to as our nature and being honest and being direct and straightforward, it will come out. It's not going to be easy to just, because there's a criteria you got to keep, and I'm not going to be able to do that and still be myself. And I think that's what happens to a lot of politicians anyway. They're trying to be political all the time when they're just natural human beings, and then you get yourself caught up. You're either finding yourself retracting too much truth, which is almost the same as just lying,
right.
or now you're divulging too much at the wrong time, and now you're on whatever you're supposed to be creating your image to be. You're the opposite of that, and now you've tarnished your name. So I'm not doing that to myself. I'm not doing that to my family. We can be these individuals and still represent ourselves and do a great cause for people if they're listening, if they're watching, if they want to entertain what we have to deliver. So I'm completely with you. I just I had to jump in there because that what I can see that people in your community asking you about something like that. But I also wanted to just reach out to our audience, and I know we've been on here. Look, it's an hour and a half, but this is a show where we want you to leave your comments, questions. We are capable of bringing you on. If you want to actually be on the feed, I can bring you onto the feed if you ever want to speak directly or be on the show versus just leaving a comment or something like that. And as you can see, Travis and I, we talk about a multitude of things. You could also catch us on the Warrior Mode, which shows every Sunday. It airs every Sunday on YouTube. It's Kev Baker, myself, Travis Short, and of course Bill Bean. It's a great show. If you like what we're talking about here, we talk about even more stuff, including some of the content, right, Travis, that we're mentioning on this show. And then you can just get a little taste of how that's done. Kev Baker he's a phenomenal individual, lives in Glasgow, Scotland, and he does a great job coordinating that show, man. It's one of the, I mean, I think about it. That Sunday show, Travis, sometimes for us, it starts late. It takes us into the wee hours of
for him. Yep, for his morning. Yes,
for him. What is he? 6 hours ahead over there? Is it something? Let's see.
That? When we end at 9, it's 2 a.m. for him. So that's 6 hours? Yeah,
approximately 6 hours, right? So he does it again. Coordinates the show.
Now, but let's also put Kev does a show 7 days a week.
Does he do that?
He does the Kev Baker show 5 to 7. And I think that is Monday through Saturday, and then he does Warrior Mode 7 to 9 with us on Sunday. The man is a machine. He really is. He is one of the best producers of a show and graphics, other than Jay. And I'm going to give shout out to Jay Roberts. I mean, Jay does some good work. Oh, man, Jay does some good stuff. I love the thing that he's done with me, with all the things coming out. That's how I feel. That's how I probably look when I'm having a migraine, because that's what I think I look like when I have a migraine.
You mean you think you look like this sometimes?
I look like that. Yeah, I have to, because that's exactly what I think a migraine probably looks like.
I mean, look at what he's got going on there. He's got, what's that? I don't know, Saturn. He's got the planets.
I
He's got
love it.
spaceships. He's got some kind of
It's
monster arm.
everything.
Moth.
Yeah,
He had to put the moths in there,
Yeah, I know. It's
dark wings, the
yep.
Mothman,
but and I told Kev last night, I said, look, when international travel is laxed, I want me and Derek and Bill to go to him. And he's like, no, Trav, don't come to Scotland. The weather's horrible. Let me come to you. I'll come.
Hey, that's
I'm like, well, fine, you come over here. I said, you. Well, you should hear my Sean Connery.
That's good, though. That's
but
good.
I'm like, I said, come on.
That's funny.
Oh, I did something a couple of years ago, and when I started in radio, I was live, so we had to create characters. So I mean, I've impersonated people several times, and so I've got a really good Jimmy Stewart that I do. I've got a pretty decent Sean Connery.
Oh, yeah,
I've got let's see, yeah, I've got. I actually have a really,
Bond.
I have a
James
really good James Bond. Yeah, I have a really good Paul Lynde actually from the Hollywood Squares back in the 70s. I've got a pretty decent Paul Lynde. But yeah, my favorite Connery line is actually from. I mean, you can do Bond, of course, but I love his character in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Oh yeah.
So there's that one scene where he's in the tank and the Nazi is just smacking him with the glove, and he wants to. He's like, what does the book tell you that it doesn't tell me? And finally, Connery stops him. And he's like, it tells me that goose-stepping morons like yourself should try reading books instead of burning them.
Yeah, I remember that. Those Indiana Joneses were good too. Though, yeah, we don't. It's funny that gets tucked away in history. It seems like nobody's talking about it. We're movie buffs. Maybe I liked a lot of movies. That's our era. We're basically the same age. So
yeah, I think what is there like a you're what you're. How old are you?
We're like a year apart. I'm 46.
Okay, I turned 45 in January, so you must. So
yeah. So yep, and my birthday's yours is in the beginning of the year, mine's at the end of the year. So
okay, and Kev falls between us because Kev will be 45, I think, in June or July, if I'm not mistaken. That's his.
Right. But I don't know, man. Sean Connery, those movies, everything that he's played in that I've seen, just one of the greatest actors and personalities. Of all time. So yeah, but I'm not going to keep you much longer. I know we've been on here. We could probably
keep going,
go on and on for forever and a day. So always been always a great show with us whenever we get on.
It is. Love it. Love you dearly.
Love you too, brother. And anything for our audience or that you'd like to say before we close this out? And they're not going to see you for at least on a Friday.
Couple weeks. Couple Fridays. I will be in not incognito. What was the word I was looking for? I will be persona non grata. I will not be available.
What's that? French? You're breaking out some. You're breaking out some French on me, man.
I won't be available the next 2 Fridays, but if there's another night during the week that works out, we can definitely make this happen. And like I said, I do apologize. Every now and then, well, I know for the next June, July, August, and September, the first Friday of the month, we've got a live concert series that will take place in downtown at a new center stage park that's been constructed. So we'll be doing something each night there. But I will find a way to make myself disappear from that and be able to do this. But this coming Friday and the first Friday, I can't. I have to actually cut the ribbon and do the MC work. So
I'd like to get you on location a couple times. So even if you came in,
We can do that. Oh, absolutely.
as simple as holding your cell phone. Hey, I'm here. Blah blah
Well,
blah.
actually, what we along those lines, because I was just thinking about doing something similar on Darkwing's the Facebook page. When I do the UFO declassification presentation, I could actually go live here.
Let's do it.
I could take my stand, put the phone up, and we could just live stream. It would just be me presenting. We wouldn't be able to take any questions or anything
That's all right.
from the audience, but we could definitely go live, and you guys could hear the presentation, hear the Q&A from the audience, and things like that, and then broadcast it later or whatever.
And you could always see questions later as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it'll be a feed.
Yeah, so let's look at doing that next Wednesday. That'll be noon on the 24th, 26th, the 26th of May.
Noon on the 26th, and what is that? A Saturday?
Wednesday. It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
Will that work for you? Would that work for your schedule?
That'd be tough because I'll
okay.
I'll barely be getting. We just gotta play it by ear. You gotta play it by ear.
What I'll do is I can still Facebook Live it on Darkwings, and then we can share it to StreamYard.
Yeah, and we should be able. I didn't even know about that page. I got to get on there and at least like this page.
I need to. Well, I haven't really sent out a whole lot of invitations for people to like it or do anything.
Yeah, send one to me. Still kind of
I will. I'll take care of it.
I'd like to at least get on there and view it myself and all. And before we actually go, so Mark, he continued watching, and I'm not exactly sure who Mark is, but I'm happy that he's watching our show. We actually might have ran into each other at some point in time. And he just says, great discussion, fellas. Enjoyed it. So thank you, Mark.
Well, thank you, Mark. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And Mercedes and
Tim. Tim. And Johnny came through for a little while. Johnny's at work. Rob Fabian, he came in for, and my good buddy Zephyrin Daniels, he jumped in, and it's the show's growing. This is only episode 2, and we're I mean, it's basically just Travis Short and Derek Stroman, having casual conversation again is what it appears to be. However, we haven't really gotten as deep into what we're able to do as we want to show you. We're going to do these kind of talk sessions regardless, because there's so much going on. We talked a lot about your story tonight, Travis, and a lot of people want,
which I was not expecting to talk.
You weren't expecting to do.
I was not expecting to go down that road.
But hey, look, it's important, and guess what? You're probably going to find yourself telling that story again and quite a few more times, even on this show, because people are going to want to know who that guy is right there behind us, our live video feeds with flying saucers coming out of it, the middle of his forehead. So, and what's behind this whole Dark Wings Mothman stories and actual occurrences. So there's a lot to be discussed about you and your life and everything you've gone through. So hey, I'm pretty sure you're preparing yourself.
I'm an open book.
For what's to come. So, and again, I don't want to keep you much longer. We're pushing 2 hours. It came and went.
It
came and went. And so, Travis, I will go ahead and let you get back to your weekend. It's Friday. I know that.
Thank you, sir. I've got my son.
Your itinerary is crazy. Even for this weekend.
We've got graduation tomorrow, cookout Sunday, warrior mode Sunday night. I'm leaving Virginia Monday morning about 5:00 to make it back to London by 9, so I could do my staff meetings and sales meetings, and then I've got a 12:00 planning session with Rotary for a fundraiser that we're doing, and then 4:30 meeting, and then we start karaoke on Tuesday night. This past Tuesday, to give you an idea of how crazy Tuesdays are going to be from now until September, we started karaoke, which we sponsor. I worked my entire day at 5:00. I went to a restaurant here in London, Old Town Grill. which is one of my clients. We host the karaoke on his patio. I helped Oasis Entertainment, Brad Jones, set up.
Oh,
We started karaoke at 7. I left Old Town Grill at 12:30 Wednesday morning. I was
jeez.
there. We broke down equipment. I helped him load it up. I got home at 1 o'clock, was in bed, and back up. So yeah, every day is always an interesting thing in the world of broadcasting and the entertainment industry. We are going nonstop.
Yeah, and also before we shut this feed down, we mentioned it a little bit, Travis, tonight, but we got a lot of work still left to do. We're gonna have to head up
Hmm.
to where Todd and Trevor had
Yes,
their experience and
we've got
document
that.
that.
We've
Yeah,
got that
so
to work on. We've got the reissue of Dark Wings. We've got a
yeah,
second documentary film,
yeah,
and we still have the Dark Force project for Bill Bean. I think
yeah,
there's at least 4 projects that we can see come to fruition very
hmm,
soon.
yeah. So
With
I'm fine with that.
me too, I'm all about it. I'm right there. I need to get up to Maryland anyway. I've got some
Yeah.
people I need to see, so I'm ready to shoot up your way.
Yeah, and definitely, please make sure that I at least know when you plan on doing that because I
I
will
will.
coordinate my schedule around that. And it's just a matter of something that
Well,
I didn't do. I guess I was trying to get on, and that's give enough heads up notice, you know.
well, okay. Here's the funny thing. I have known Bill Bean for a decade. Bill and I have never met in person.
It's crazy. It's so crazy.
So trust me, when I come up to Maryland, you and Bill are like at the top of
Yeah.
my list. I mean, he and I have missed each other. He has been to Kentucky. I was out of Kentucky. He's been to Tennessee. I wasn't in Tennessee. He's been to Virginia and I wasn't there. We have missed each other so many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's 3 people top of my list when I hit Maryland. I've got to get with, and you guys are 2 of them. So
Yeah, I appreciate it. And just safe travels.
absolutely, sir.
And watch out for the crazies. I'm on the road constantly, and
I know.
people drive like pure maniacs. I just want you to be safe.
I
And
appreciate it, and
keep an eye
I'm one
out
of
for
those.
them.
I can be one of those maniacs. I try not to be, but
I can see you.
I know.
Get
I
out the
know.
way.
Sorry. So I will. I'm going to try to Facebook Live my son's graduation tomorrow. So I'm hoping to. I'll try to tag some people, but if you see it, try to share it. I'm trying to get as many.
Yeah,
With COVID and
definitely
everything,
share me and tag me.
oh, I will. I'm going to be tagging you, tagging Kev, tagging Bill, a few other people. Just trying to get as many views on it as we possibly can. But I have enjoyed tonight, and I'm sorry that I'm going to miss the next 2 Fridays, but I will be back in force that 3rd Friday in June. I promise.
Yeah, and I look forward to it. I mean, Friday's a good night for this show because it's
Yes,
leading into the weekend, and just trying to squeeze another show, and which we can do.
and we get
We'll
to tease Warrior mode on
Yeah,
Friday. I mean, that's even better.
we get the Tease Warrior mode on Friday, and I'll be seeing you again
On Sunday. Yes.
on Sunday. So looking forward to Sunday's show, which is going to be a good one too.
Oh, it
So,
is. Oh, I'm telling you. Anybody that watches this live and in the feed,
yeah.
Stan Gordon, Lon
Oh,
Strickler, you're talking about a combined 100 years worth of experience in UFOs, cryptids, the supernatural, and the paranormal. This show is probably going to be by far one of the best as far as content. These 2 gentlemen know more about everything unexplained. I think Kev Baker put it best. What they don't know about these things you might be able to put it on the back of a postage stamp. You might be able to.
Yes, Mark. This is Sunday. He's asking.
Sunday night, 7
He
o'clock.
would probably be a good part of the audience for what we do. He seemed to
Oh,
be
absolutely.
pretty interested in what we were
Yeah.
talking about tonight.
Tell
So, yeah,
7 p.m.
we'll tag.
Bill,
Yeah.
Bill Bean's YouTube channel.
Yep. Well, just because I believe, he's coming from Facebook, so he's a Facebook friend of mine.
Okay.
Don't worry, I'm going to tag you, Mark. I'll tag you in it. And like you were saying, though, Travis, man, as many times as we've had those guys on, it's like our conversation. They can answer everything. It's like never the same conversation. It's weird.
Never.
And we're always hitting that number one for a question. I'm like, you see me freaking out on the show sometimes. I'm like, I start raising my hand sometimes, like, hey, I got a question. But it's great. You're right, man. It's great having them. They're a wealth of knowledge. So
they are. I'm looking very forward to Sunday night. It's going to be a good show.
Well, love you, Travis. Have a good
night,
you, man. I don't want to keep you much longer.
You guys have a good evening up there in Maryland, and everyone that was on the show, Mark and Mercedes and Tim and everyone, thank you all so much. And pop back in. Like I said, I won't be available the next 2 Fridays, but who knows when we'll go live again on Speak Your Mind, because isn't that what it's about? Speak your mind whenever you want to speak your mind and be able to just say what you want to say. So, but Derek, I love you, man. And if I don't talk to you before, I will talk to you Sunday night on Warrior Mode.
See you Sunday on Warrior Mode, brother. Take care.
Good, brother. You too.
See you, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Whew, man, I tell you, man, the guy is just a great individual. I've spent a lot of time talking to him. That Warrior Mode show, it's had really, I don't know, connected in a way where some of the storylines and the guests that we've had on that show and what they're going through and the losses people are enduring. Oh man, it's crazy just how hard life could be out there. And if you want to turn your back to it, you can acknowledge some situations too, some people's situations. You would want somebody to care about you in your situation if you needed somebody when it came time. So I'm just paying it forward. I'm doing my part, and I'm gonna continue to do my part. So I appreciate everybody who was watching the Speak Your Mind Paramedia activity show this evening, episode number 2 with myself and Travis Short. It was a great show. Thanks again for watching. You all have a blessed weekend, and hopefully I'll see you all Sunday for the Warrior Mode show with Bill Bean, Kev Baker, Derek Stroman, and Travis Short. Until then, good night.